Hey guys, welcome to Elevated Systems. I'm your host CJ, and today we're looking at a very unique device. This is the Smiseacow, Listen, I have no idea how to pronounce it, but I'm going to show you what it is and the secret it holds, how it works. I'll show you some ways that it didn't work too well for me, and in the end, we're going to deconstruct it and turn it into what could be the ultimate addition to my gaming setup. Let's do this.
It's the money.
Okay guys, before I get too deep into what this K2 multifunctional touch keyboard is all about, let's get it out of the box and see what it comes with. And first, let me say that despite the unit getting a bit knocked around in shipping, the packaging does present a premium look and feel with the copper metallic embossed graphics and text on the outer sleeve. Inside is a very plain but solid box that opens to reveal the K2, which is protected in some dense non-recyclable foam. Setting the K2 aside for the moment, the accessories include a wrist rest, a USB-C to USB-C cable, a USB-C to HDMI and dual USB-A cable, a velvet carry bag, and a dual keycap switch puller. Let's look at the K2 itself, and the first thing to do is of course peel the protective film, revealing the built-in 12.6-inch multi-touch display. That's the secret that the K2 holds. It's a 71 key mechanical keyboard with a built-in IPS 10-point touchscreen display, but before we explore that, let's go over the features and specs of the K2, starting with that display, which is 1920 by 515, which is just under half the vertical height of a full HD panel, but at 12.6 inches diagonal gives us a respectable PPI of 158 pixels per inch. It has a 60 Hz refresh rate with a contrast ratio of 1200 to 1, an average brightness of 250 nits, and covers 45% of the NTSC color gamut. There are buttons on the back of the unit that access the display menu and to adjust the backlight from 0 to its full 250 nits of brightness. The keyboard is a 71 key layout with a lightweight ABS shine through keycaps and Gateron blue switches on a hot swappable PCB and features per key RGB lighting. The lighting effects can be controlled with function key combinations and does not require the use of proprietary software. The overall build quality is good with the combination of aluminum alloy and polycarbonate case and weighs in at about 1.4 kilograms or about 3 pounds. The typing angle can be raised from about 5 to 15 degrees with the flip out feet. The K2 can be connected directly via USB-C to devices with USB-C that include DisplayPort Alt mode or with the included USB-C to HDMI USB-A cable. The video is transmitted via the HDMI with one USB-A connection for the touchscreen control and the second for the included USB-A pass-through ports on the keyboard. At the time of filming, the K2 cost $389. Now that I got through all that, I'm gonna quickly attempt to review the K2 as far as I can, because while I can review most things objectively, comparing them to competitive products, this one is different in a couple aspects. First is there aren't any current alternatives to this. It's a very unique product. And secondly, I typically don't review peripherals, keyboards, mice, displays, because most of the user experience is completely subjective and personal. For example, I personally don't like clicky switches, especially Gateron blues, but while I consider myself a keyboard enthusiast, I try not to be a keyboard elitist. So while I don't prefer clicky switches, I know many people do, and there's a reason why they come on many mainstream gaming keyboards and are probably the second most popular switch just behind Gateron or Cherry Reds. Another thing I don't really like about the keyboard is the very thin and light ABS keycaps. These keycaps are less than a millimeter thin, and the combination of the clicky switches, light ABS caps, and the stamped aluminum and polycarbonate chassis give the keyboard an overall flimsy feel and a sharp, tinny sound. Again, that's my opinion, but for a typist or gamer who likes the quick return and sharp impact resulting from the light keycaps and clicky switches, then this is probably a great choice at its stock config. Now, on the positive side first, it's a hot swappable PCB, so if blues aren't your thing, you can just swap them out for whatever you like. keycaps too if you want. The PCB isn't programmable as far as I can tell with QMK or VIA, but the RGB is fully controllable and can be per key programmed with the function keys. No need to install yet another proprietary software. The PCB and positioning plate are solid, and the entire unit is solid and inflexible. The stabilizers are plate mounted clip-in type, and although could do with a lube, they do a fairly good job of stabilizing the keys. And finally, while the keyboard is a bit high with the front key height of over 3 centimeters, with the palm rest, it's very comfortable and the keyboard is laid out great. Standard offset QWERTY with good proportions, the full 2.75U shift keys, the right alt key is in the correct position, and the function key replaces the right win or super key. Arrow keys are included and a useful selection of keys on the final 2 columns. Overall, it's a good keyboard that can be completely customized to fit your preference. Now, the display has some shortcomings like only 250 nits of brightness and the lower color gamut, but I can forgive those as that's limited by the available USB power, and I'd rather the single USB-C connection than needing an additional power line. I don't see this as a display you're doing any real color accurate or detailed or creative work on anyway, but my biggest complaint is the display is fixed. There's no way to adjust the screen, so if the viewing angle is bad for you, or like in my case, there's a glare, there isn't much you can do except for physically move the keyboard or yourself to get a better view. It's a really cool concept, but in application, the screen should definitely be able to tilt. Now, overall, the biggest problem I had with the K2, and again, this is subjective, is I couldn't figure out how to incorporate it into my workflow. First, over the past 3 weeks since I've received it, I've been daily driving the new Mac Studio, and while the keyboard and display does work with the Mac, Mac OS isn't really intended to be used with touchscreen, hence, well, no touchscreen MacBooks. The touchscreen controls whatever screen your mouse is on, so in order for the K2's touchscreen to work, you have to move the mouse to the screen, so, I mean, at that point, just use the mouse. On Windows, it works regardless of where the mouse is, but when you touch the touchscreen, it moves the mouse to the touchscreen. So my thought of offloading some of my Photoshop panels to the K2 and being able to change brush colors and types on the fly was not as brilliant as I thought it'd be. Now, just as a secondary display, I think it can be greatly beneficial, especially if you're using it with a smaller primary display like my 13-inch laptop. Moving windows and menus to the secondary display is a great way to increase the real estate of your primary display. However, I already have a dual display for my work setup, and I use a screen bar monitor light, which just reflects directly into my eyes off the K2's display. So this just didn't fit into my workflow, but this isn't my only setup. Down, tucked away in the corner of my family/game room is my very modest gaming rig, and this K2 with some modifications will definitely add something to this simple setup. What modifications, you ask? Well, first, I'll replace the clicky blue switches with these drop Holy Panda X tactile switches. I just picked these up to try out, so this is a good opportunity to do that. And if I'm adding $70 in new switches, I'll need keycaps, and for that I have these, also from Drop, the MT3 Cyber keycap base set. I've had these for a while now. They were of course released about the same time as Cyberpunk 2077 was, but after the game had launch problems, I found them for very cheap, under $60 I think on Amazon. They're back up to their 120-ish price point now, but I love the MT3 profile. These are also ABS, but a much heavier double shot keycap, and regardless of the fact that I ended up not being a huge fan of the game, the dark purple and yellow with teal and dark pinks of the colorway is great on its own regardless. So let's get the keyboard rebuilt and then we'll get to the screen. Now, this is completely different experience, perfect for me, which is the point of a custom mechanical keyboard. You can customize it to your exact preferences. I also like a little more subdued sound, so you might have noticed I repurposed some of the foam from the box, which worked perfectly under the PCB, and deadened some of the metallic and sharp sounds. Okay, now that I have the keyboard squared away, let's turn our attention to the display, and I had two really great ideas for it. One, I was able to execute beautifully, and one, well, not so much. So first, you've probably seen PC builds where the builder incorporated an LCD sensor panel into the PC displaying sensor stats. My gaming rig actually has a great spot for one, but the PC sits under my desk, so not really practical. But here's a large display right on the desk in front of me. So that's what I'm using this display for, a sensor panel that I can monitor my system stats and FPS performance. Now, full disclosure, I didn't build this from scratch. I just resized it and modified it to more closely match my Cyber keycap colorway. This panel is almost identical to one Brian from BPS Customs demoed a while back. So if you want to learn exactly how to set one of these up and where to find the assets, I left the link to his video in the description below. In the end, it really brought the whole theme together, resulting in a very unique and cool gaming centric keyboard. All I need to do now is order this custom desk mat I designed to finish off the theme. Now, I really wanted to step it up to a whole new level and add some real value to this K2, as well as take advantage of the touchscreen. So I had the idea to incorporate an Elgato Stream Deck into the display, so I shrunk the sensor panel to leave room for the Stream Deck app. Unfortunately, although I was able to come up with a workaround to install the Stream Deck mobile app on my Windows 11 desktop, the app won't launch without a Google Play Store account verification. Well, that didn't work out, but there are plenty of other apps and widgets that would work. Volume controls and mixers, streaming music and video apps. My son wants to use it for all his Xbox Live game bar and widgets, so he has all those social controls at his fingertips. There are countless ways in which you can use this device in both work and play setups, well, more than my simple brain can fathom. So how would you incorporate it into your setup? Leave me some ideas in the comments. Finally, is this a good buy? Well, again, that's completely subjective. To me, $389 is a lot of money, and as configured, this cost almost 600 bucks. But then again, I've spent way more than that on custom mechanical keyboards in the past, and there really isn't anything else like this out there. So this is one of the few times where I'm gonna leave you with, it depends, because it's a completely subjective product, and my intention here was to bring you some of the info you may need and to demonstrate some of the use cases to hopefully help you make an informed decision on whether this K2 multifunction touch keyboard is something you may want to add to your setup.